Fiat currency, paper money, and inflation, from Voltaire to Bitcoin. Paper money eventually returns to its intrinsic value, zero. What did Voltaire mean with this brutal quote? Was he being cynical or simply prophetic? Today we're diving deep into fiat currency, inflation, and how this 18th century warning still echoes loudly in today's economy. We'll explore why governments abandoned gold-backed money, how trust fuels modern paper currencies, and why Bitcoin has become a digital answer to a centuries-old problem. Let's get into it. Fiat currency is money that has no intrinsic value. It's not backed by gold, silver, or any other physical commodity. Instead, it's money because a government declares it to be legal tender. The word fiat comes from Latin, meaning let it be done. In essence, fiat currency exists by decree. Your dollars, euros, or yen are just pieces of paper or digital entries that have value only because we all agree to trust the system. But that trust has limits, and when it breaks, inflation or even hyperinflation can follow. For most of human history, money was tied to something real and scarce, most commonly gold and silver. The idea was simple. Governments couldn't just print endless money if every banknote had to be backed by actual gold reserves. This was known as the gold standard. In the US until 1933, you could literally take your dollar bill to a bank and exchange it for a fixed amount of gold. That gave people confidence. Money wasn't just paper, it represented tangible value. After World War II, global leaders gathered in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, to create a new international financial system. The result? The Bretton Woods Agreement. Here's how it worked. Currencies from around the world were pegged to the US dollar, and the US dollar itself was pegged to gold at $35 per ounce. This system made the dollar the world's reserve currency, and for a time, it brought stability and confidence to global trade. But there was a catch. As the US began spending more, particularly during the Vietnam War and President Lyndon B. Johnson's Great Society programs, it printed more dollars without increasing its gold reserves. Foreign countries started to suspect something was off. In 1971, everything changed. President Richard Nixon announced that the U.S. would no longer allow foreign governments to exchange dollars for gold. This event became known as the Nixon shock. Just like that, the last link between money and gold was severed. From that moment, the world entered a new era, the era of pure fiat currency. No more gold, no more physical limits. Governments were now free to create as much money as they wanted, based only on the promise that their central banks would manage things responsibly. Voltaire's warning starts to make sense here. When money can be printed at will, governments almost always end up printing too much. This leads to inflation, when the purchasing power of your money declines because there are more units of currency chasing the same amount of goods. But sometimes, it gets much worse. Let's look at a few famous examples. Weimar Germany from 1921 to 1923. After World War I, Germany was saddled with massive reparations. To pay them, the government printed money, a lot of it. The result? Hyperinflation. At its peak, prices were doubling every few days. People needed wheelbarrows full of cash just to buy bread. Workers demanded to be paid twice a day so they could spend their wages before they lost value. Zimbabwe from 2007 to 2009. Under the regime of Robert Mugabe, Zimbabwe's government printed money to cover national debts and fund war efforts. By 2008, inflation reached an estimated 89.7 sextillion% year-on-year. That's not a typo. Zimbabwe eventually abandoned its currency and adopted foreign ones like the US dollar and South African rand. These stories may sound extreme, but they serve as warning signs of what can happen when money loses its connection to scarcity and discipline. Without gold or another hard asset backing it, fiat currency is based on trust alone. Trust in the central bank, trust in the government, trust that inflation will stay under control. But trust is fragile, and central banks around the world have tested its limits. From 2020 onward, in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, governments and central banks injected trillions of dollars, euros, and yen into the economy. That surge of new money created a short-term boost, but now inflation is spiking globally. Food prices, rent, fuel, it's all going up, and people are starting to wonder, can we still trust fiat money? Enter Bitcoin or digital hard money. In 2008, during the financial crisis, a mysterious figure named Satoshi Nakamoto released the Bitcoin white paper. Bitcoin was created as a response to the flaws of fiat. Unlike traditional currencies, Bitcoin has a fixed supply. Only 21 million coins will ever exist. That makes it deflationary, or hard money, the opposite of inflationary fiat currencies. Bitcoin is decentralized. No government or central bank can control it. Transparent. Every transaction is recorded on a public ledger. Predictable. The issuance schedule is written in code, not decided in backrooms. For many, Bitcoin is the modern answer to gold, a store of value that cannot be inflated away. And during times of currency collapse, Bitcoin has already proven itself. In Venezuela, Argentina, or Lebanon, citizens in countries with unstable fiat currencies have turned to Bitcoin to preserve their wealth, make cross-border payments, and escape capital controls. In many ways, Bitcoin is becoming a lifeboat in a sea of sinking fiat ships. Let's zoom out for a second. What have we learned? 1. Fiat money systems always rely on trust, and history shows that trust is often abused. 2. Gold-backed money kept governments accountable. They couldn't spend what they didn't have. 3. Since Nixon removed the gold standard, inflation and debt have soared worldwide. 4. Hyperinflation happens when governments print money recklessly. It's not just a theory. 5. Bitcoin offers a modern alternative. Digital, scarce, and resistant to manipulation. Voltaire wasn't just throwing shade when he said paper money eventually returns to zero. He was giving us a warning, one that we've ignored over and over again. We're not here to give financial advice, but here are some questions worth asking yourself. Are you protecting your savings from inflation? Are you relying solely on fiat currencies? Have you considered assets that can't be printed out of thin air? Whether it's gold, Bitcoin, real estate, or other limited supply assets, the key takeaway is this. In a world where money is based on trust, it's smart to diversify into things you can actually trust. To wrap up, Voltaire warned us, paper money returns to its intrinsic value, zero. And history has shown us just how true that can be. From the fall of the gold standard, to currency collapses, to trillion-dollar stimulus packages, the fiat experiment continues. But cracks are showing. Bitcoin may not be perfect, but it offers something rare in today's financial world. Mathematical scarcity. And that alone makes it worth understanding, exploring, and maybe even holding. If you found this video helpful, consider liking and subscribing. Let us know in the comments. Do you still trust fiat money, or are you looking for a better alternative? Until next time, stay informed, Stay curious and protect your wealth. For more insights, visit quotesonfinance.com.